I was standing in the middle of my own wedding reception, still in my dress, still shaking from the vows I'd said an hour earlier, when my father slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "You don't deserve a honeymoon, Anna, and you know exactly why." Every fork in the room froze mid-air. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. My husband, Ethan, squeezed my hand under the table, but Dad kept going. "Your sister needed help, and you chose your selfish little vacation instead." Then he added the line that burned into me forever. "You never do anything for this family, not like Emily." Everyone stared at me like I had personally set the church on fire. And then Ethan, quiet, logical, gentle Ethan, stood up, pulled out his phone, and said, "If you're going to accuse my wife of being selfish on her wedding day, then we're doing this properly. Let's show everyone the receipts." You won't believe what happened next. But to understand how I ended up being publicly humiliated by my own father at my own wedding, let me take you back. I grew up the second daughter, which sounds harmless. Plenty of people are the second. But in my house, second daughter was closer to spare part. My sister, Emily, was the golden child from birth. Everything she did was art, brilliance, perfection. Everything I did was fine. When she painted something, it got framed. When I painted something, Mom said, "Oh, that's cute, honey," and used it as a coaster. You get the idea. The worst part? I didn't even hate her. She was charming, good at everything, always the center of attention. Honestly, I kind of admired her. But admiration has limits, especially when someone takes advantage of you for years. One of my earliest memories was a family camping trip where Emily forgot her jacket. My mom turned to me, pulled my jacket off, and said, "Give it to your sister. Don't make a scene." I was 5. But here's the thing. Growing up, overlooked trains you to be quiet, observant, strategic. Golden children rarely look down. Shadows learn to see everything. And that little skill, that came in handy later. When I met Ethan in college, he was the first person who ever made me feel genuinely visible. Not tolerated, not useful, seen. He noticed the little things, the way I snorted when I laughed, the fact that I couldn't eat without my foot tapping under the table, the way I memorized the endings of movies in case they were too emotional. And when he met my family, oh boy. We were at dinner one night when Dad said, "So, Ethan, are you ready for the responsibility of taking care of Anna? She's delicate." I choked on my water. Delicate? I'd been paying my own rent since 18 while Emily lived at home rent-free. Ethan didn't miss a beat. He smiled politely and said, "Funny, she's the most capable person I know." Dad blinked, like no one had ever said that about me before. Probably because they hadn't. But the real trouble started when Emily got engaged. Or almost engaged. She was on and off with her boyfriend, Jason. The guy was a walking red flag. Cocky, unpredictable, and the kind of man who believed every woman wanted him. And apparently, one of those women was me. At least, according to Emily. Here's where things spiraled. About a month before my wedding, Emily showed up at my apartment hysterically crying. "He broke up with me," she sobbed, snot trailing down her face, mascara everywhere. "Jason said he can't be with someone who can't keep up, whatever that means." I made her tea. I sat with her. I comforted her, like always. Then she suddenly wiped her eyes, looked at my engagement ring, and said, "It's not fair you get a husband and a honeymoon while I lose mine." I froze. She said it in that half-joking, half-dead serious way she always used when she was about to ask me for something insane. And sure enough, "You could cancel your honeymoon, right? Just temporarily. The money could help me move out, get a place, get back on my feet. You know, just until Jason realizes he made a mistake." I almost laughed, because surely she couldn't be serious. She was serious. Dead serious. "Em," I said gently, "I'm not giving up my honeymoon. That's my wedding trip." Her eyes went cold, instantly. "I would do it for you," she snapped. No, she wouldn't. She couldn't even give me my own jacket growing up. But the moment she stormed out of my apartment, I knew she was going to spin this into something awful. And I was right. 2 days later, my mom called me. "Anna," she began in that ominous tone, "your sister told us you refuse to help her even though she's going through the hardest time of her life." I sighed. "Mom, she asked me to cancel my honeymoon." "Well," she huffed, "maybe she wouldn't have needed to ask if you offered." "Why would I offer something like that?" "Because she's family, and you know how generous she's always been with you." Generous? The girl who used my savings bond at 16 to buy herself a prom dress? Yeah, incredibly generous. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the wall, realizing something crucial. They genuinely believed Emily deserved my life more than I did. But here's the micro hook moment. This is where something shifted in me. Because while they were busy acting like Emily was a fragile princess, I found something big. And I didn't even have to look for it. It walked right into my lap. 3 days before the wedding, I was at my parents' house picking up decorations Mom had stored for me. I walked into the kitchen just in time to hear Emily on the phone. She wasn't crying. She wasn't heartbroken. She was laughing. Laughing. "Yeah, no, he's still obsessed with me," she giggled. "Jason always comes crawling back. I just have to pretend I'm devastated so my parents keep spoiling me. Honestly, I could probably get them to pay off my credit card twice if I really wanted." I stood there frozen. Then she said the line that made the hairs on my arms rise. "Once I get the money from Anna's little honeymoon fund, I'll be fine." My blood turned to ice. She wasn't hurting. She wasn't heartbroken. She was using everyone, including me, as her personal ATM. When she hung up and noticed me standing in the doorway, she smirked. "Don't look at me like that. It's not my fault I'm the favorite." She brushed past me, perfume cloud following her, and added over her shoulder, "You should really be more grateful, Anna. Without me, you'd be boring." I didn't say anything. I didn't argue or shout. Because instead of panicking, I was thinking, calculating. And I realized something your average golden child never expects. Quiet daughters, we learn to gather evidence without anyone noticing. On my wedding day, everything felt surreal. The ceremony was beautiful. The dress fit perfectly. Ethan cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. For the first time in months, I felt like everything was finally okay. I should have known better. We got to the reception, sat down for dinner, the champagne was flowing, and then, boom. Dad stood up, raised his glass, and said loudly, "I want to make a toast to my daughter, Emily." Everyone turned. My wedding, my reception, and he was toasting my sister. "She has been going through a horrible time," he continued, "and yet she still showed up here today with grace and strength, unlike some people." A few guests shifted uncomfortably. I felt my face go hot. Then Dad dropped the bomb. "It's disappointing your sister refused to help you during your crisis, Emily. Some people only think of themselves." Emily looked down like she was a martyr, a delicate victim, a tragic heroine. And then my father said the line that made the entire room gasp. "Anna doesn't deserve a honeymoon." My fork clattered against the plate. I whispered, "Dad, what are you talking about?" He snapped, "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Emily told us what you did." That was when Ethan stood, slow, controlled, a storm in a quiet suit. "If you're going to accuse my wife," he said calmly, "then let's bring all the information to the table." Everyone stared. "Ethan, sit down," my mother hissed. "No," he said. "This ends today." And then he unlocked his phone. What Ethan didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had found something even bigger than Emily's manipulative phone call. Now, remember how I told you her boyfriend, Jason, was a walking red flag? Well, 2 nights before the wedding, he messaged me. Not to flirt, not to confess something dramatic, but to return my umbrella. Yup, a stupid umbrella I'd lent him months ago during a barbecue when it suddenly rained. He wrote, "Hey, sorry for everything. Emily told me you blamed her for borrowing your money. That's messed up. I know you're not like that. You're like the only sane one." He attached a screenshot of his last conversation with Emily to prove it. And that screenshot? Oh, it was gold. Emily had texted him, "Don't worry, I told them Anna has savings she doesn't deserve. She's always been jealous. They'll guilt her into giving me the honeymoon money, and once I get it, I'll book the Mexico trip you promised. We can post it and pretend you took me." Yeah, she wasn't heartbroken. She wasn't heartbroken. She was planning a beach getaway with the same guy who dumped her. Ethan didn't know I had that evidence yet, but he had his own. Ethan cleared his throat. "First," he said, holding up his phone, "Emily told us she needed the honeymoon money desperately because she was getting kicked out." My parents nodded. "Well," Ethan continued, "here's the lease agreement she signed last week for a new luxury apartment." He tapped the screen, zoomed in. Her name, her signature, her $2,800 a month unit. Gasps. Emily's face went sheet white. Dad stammered, "Where did you get that?" "She accidentally emailed it to Anna instead of her friend, but I'm not done." He swiped again. "This is the invoice for the debt she claimed she needed help with." Another screen, another document. "She told us her credit card was maxed and she needed support," Mom said, trying to defend her. Ethan nodded. "Right, but Emily paid off that credit card 3 days ago with a wire transfer from your joint account with her." My parents looked like someone had slapped them.
"She took money from us?" Dad muttered. Ethan raised his eyebrows. "Oh, much more than that. But before I continue, let's address the real accusation that my wife is selfish." He turned to Emily. "You told your parents that Anna refused to help you, that she never helps you, that she doesn't care." Emily swallowed hard. "And yet," Ethan continued, "here's the Venmo history from the past 5 years. He projected it from his phone onto Dad's Bluetooth speaker screen behind him. Lines and lines of transactions, most of them from me to Emily. Gasps ripple through the room. Let me explain. Whenever Emily asked me for money, I rarely said no, even when she used guilt, even when I couldn't afford it. I hated confrontation, so I quietly sent her what I could, over and over and over. Sometimes she paid me back. Mostly she didn't. And apparently, Ethan knew all of it. Well, almost all. Here," he said, pointing. "This is the money Anna helped you with in the past 3 months alone. 3 months? $2,200. Dad blinked. "Emily, is this true?" But Emily stayed dead silent. That's when I stood up too, because it was my turn. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "there's one more thing." Every eye in the room turned toward me.
I wasn't going to bring this up today. I wanted to start my marriage with peace. I pulled my phone from my bouquet. But since you decided to humiliate me publicly, Dad, let's go all in. I tapped the screen and played the audio. The phone call. Emily laughing, mocking everyone, bragging about using them, admitting she planned to spend my honeymoon money on Jason, calling herself the favorite. Every word echoed through the reception hall. It was like watching a glass palace shatter. When the audio ended, you could hear a pin drop. Then Dad whispered, barely audible, "Emily?" She didn't answer. She just stared at the floor like a child caught with her hand in every cookie jar on earth. That's when the twist hit, because I wasn't finished. "Since we're talking about money," I said quietly, "there's one more receipt I want to show." I tapped again. Up came a screenshot of a bank withdrawal from my parents' account, a large one. 12,000. Dad frowned. "What is that?" Ethan stepped beside me. He already knew. I'd shown him the night before. "That," I said, turning to my parents, "is the wedding contribution you told everyone you gave me." Mom blinked. "Yes, we did." I shook my head. "No, Emily told you I didn't need it, so you transferred the entire amount to her, not me." My mom's jaw dropped. That's not possible." "It is," I said. "She told you I refused it. She told you I said it was unnecessary. She told you I didn't want your help." Dad looked nauseous. "And I added softly, "I didn't even know you planned to give anything, because you never told me, not once." My mother covered her mouth, mortified. Then Ethan delivered the final blow. "Anna's been paying for this entire wedding herself, every last detail, and you let her because you believed Emily's lies." Silence. No, worse than silence. Realization, shame, guilt sinking into the walls. And then, something I'd never seen. My father actually looked at me with regret. But it was too late. I turned to Ethan and said, "Let's go." He nodded. We walked toward the exit. But before we could leave, Emily finally snapped out of her frozen state. She lunged forward and screamed, "You ruined everything!" I stopped in my tracks, slowly turned around, and said the most liberating sentence of my life. "No, Emily, you ruined yourself. I just stopped protecting you." She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "And just so you know, our honeymoon is already paid for. We leave tomorrow, and it's going to be amazing." Gasps, whispers, half the room smiling. Because for once in my entire life, I wasn't the quiet daughter. I wasn't the spare part. I wasn't the shadow. I was the woman who finally stood up. We left the reception hall hand in hand, my wedding dress swaying behind me, my heart pounding like a drum. And as the door closed, I swear I felt 25 years of weight drop off my shoulders. The aftermath? Oh, it got messy. My parents apologized, repeatedly, desperately. They said they were blindsided, manipulated, stupid. But apologies don't erase decades. For the first time ever, I set boundaries. We need space, I told them, and therapy. All of us. Or nothing changes. Emily tried to call me too, mostly to scream, then to guilt trip, then to cry. I blocked her. She tried texting Ethan. He blocked her too. Last I heard, she had to move out because my parents froze all financial support and demanded she actually get a job. Jason, he took that Mexico trip with someone else. But here's the real twist. On our honeymoon, sitting on a balcony over the ocean, Ethan said, "I'm proud of you." And I realized something profound. I didn't just marry the love of my life. I married someone who saw me, not the version my family convinced me I was. And I finally saw myself too. If you were in my shoes, Would you forgive them? Or walk away like I did? Because here's my truth. Sometimes you have to lose a family to build a life.